System 1 is a filter by which you interpret your experiences. It is the system you use for making intuitive decisions. So, it is undoubtedly the oldest brain system as it is evolutionarily primitive. System 1 is also unconscious and impulse-driven. Although you might feel System 1 is not having a significant impact on your life, it influences many of your choices and judgments.
StoryShots is proud to bring you this free audiobook summary. Do you want to get access to more free audiobook summaries like this? Subscribe and click the bell button now to get notified each time we upload a new summary. You can also download our free app and enjoy thousands of other summaries of best-selling nonfiction books that are available in text, audio, and animated formats. StoryShots has been featured by Apple, Google, and The Guardian as one of the world's best reading and learning apps. Go to getstoryshots.com and download the app today. Happy learning.
Life gets busy. Has thinking, fast and slow, been gathering dust on your bookshelf? Instead, pick up the key ideas now. We're scratching the surface here. If you don't already have the book, get the audiobook for free using the link in the description or the app. StoryShots Analysis and Summary of Thinking, Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. About Daniel Kahneman. Daniel Kahneman is Professor of Psychology and Public Affairs Emeritus at the Princeton School of Public and International Affairs, the Eugene Higgins Professor of Psychology Emeritus at Princeton University, and a Fellow of the Center for Rationality at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. Dr. Kahneman is a member of the National Academy of Science, the Philosophical Society, and the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. He is also a Fellow of the American Psychological Association, the American Psychological Society, the Society of Experimental Psychologists, and the Econometric Society. In 2015, The Economist listed him as the 7th most influential economist in the world. In 2002, Kahneman was also awarded a Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences. Introduction. Thinking, Fast and Slow provides an outline of the two most common approaches our brains utilize. Like a computer, our brain is built of systems. System 1 is fast, intuitive, and emotional. Daniel Kahneman encourages us to move away from our reliance on this system. System 1 is the most common source of mistakes and stagnation. In comparison, System 2 is a slower, more deliberate, and logical thought process. Kahneman recommends tapping into this system more frequently. As well as this advice, Kahneman provides guidance on how and why we make our decisions. StoryShot number 1. System 1 is innate. There are two systems associated with our thought processes. For each system, Kahneman outlines the primary functions and the decision-making processes associated with each system. System 1 includes all capabilities that are innate and generally shared with similar creatures within the animal kingdom. For example, each of us is born with an innate ability to recognize objects, orient our attention to important stimuli, and fear things linked to death or disease. System 1 also deals with mental activities that have become near innate by becoming faster and more automatic. These activities generally move into System 1 because of prolonged practice. Certain pieces of knowledge will be automatic for you. For example, you do not even have to think about what the capital of England is. Over time, you have built an automatic association with the question, what is the capital of England? As well as intuitive knowledge, System 1 also deals with learned skills, such as reading a book, riding a bike, and how to act in common social situations. There are also certain actions that are generally in System 1, but can also fall into System 2. This overlap occurs if you are making a deliberate effort to engage with that action. For example, chewing will generally fall into System 1. That said, suppose you become aware that you should be chewing your food more than you had been. In that case, some of your chewing behaviors will be shifted into the effortful System 2. Attention is often associated with both Systems 1 and 2. They work in tandem. For example, System 1 will be driving your immediate involuntary reaction to a loud sound. Your System 2 will then take over and offer voluntary attention to this sound and logical reasoning about the sound's cause. System 1 is a filter by which you interpret your experiences. It is the system you use for making intuitive decisions. So, it is undoubtedly the oldest brain system as it is evolutionarily primitive. System 1 is also unconscious and impulse-driven. Although you might feel System 1 is not having a significant impact on your life, it influences many of your choices and judgments. Story shot number 2. System 2 can control parts of System 1. System 2 comprises a range of activities, but each of these activities requires attention and is disrupted when attention is drawn away. Without attention, your performance in these activities will diminish. Significantly, System 2 can change the way System 1 works. For example, detection is generally an act of System 1. You can set yourself, via System 2, to search for a specific person in a crowd. This priming by System 2 allows your System 1 to perform better, meaning you are more likely to find the specific person in the crowd. This is the same process we utilize when we are completing a word search. Because System 2 activities require attention, they are generally more effortful than System 1 activities. It is also challenging to simultaneously carry out more than one System 2 activity. The only tasks that can be simultaneously completed fall on the lower limits of effort, for example, holding a conversation while driving. That said, it is not wise to hold a conversation while overtaking a truck on a narrow road. Essentially, the more attention a task requires, the less viable it is to be completing another System 2 task simultaneously. System 2 is younger, having developed in the last several thousand years. System 2 has become increasingly important as we adapt to modernization and shifting priorities. Most of the second system's operations require conscious attention, such as giving someone your phone number. The operations of System 2 are often associated with the subjective experience of agency, choice, and concentration. When we think of ourselves, we identify with System 2. It is the conscious, reasoning self that has beliefs, makes choices, and decides what to think about and what to do. Story shot number 3. The two systems support each other. Based on the two systems' descriptions, it could become easy to imagine that the systems occur one after the other. Kahneman explains that these two systems are actually integrated and mutually supportive. So, almost all tasks are a mix of both systems and are complementary. For example, emotions, System 1, are crucial in adopting logical reasoning. System 2. Emotions make our decision-making more meaningful and effective. Another example of the two systems working in tandem is when we are playing sport. Certain parts of the sport will be automatic actions. Consider a game of tennis. Tennis will utilize running, which is an innate skill in humans and is controlled by System 1. Hitting a ball can also become a System 1 activity through practice. That said, there will always be specific strokes or tactical decisions that will require your System 2. So both systems are complementary to each other as you play a sport, such as tennis. Issues can arise when people over-rely on their System 1 as it requires less effort. Additional issues are associated with activities that are out of your routine. This is when Systems 1 and 2 will become conflicted. Story shot number 4. Heuristics as mental shortcuts. The second part of the book introduces the concept of heuristics. Heuristics are mental shortcuts we create as we make decisions. We are always seeking to solve problems with the greatest efficiency. So, heuristics are highly beneficial for conserving energy throughout our everyday lives. For example, our heuristics help us to automatically apply previous knowledge to slightly different circumstances. Although heuristics can be positive, it is also essential to consider that heuristics are the source of prejudice. For example, you may have one negative experience with a person from a specific ethnic group. If you rely solely on your heuristics, you might stereotype other people from the same ethnic group. Heuristics can also cause cognitive biases, systemic errors in thinking, bad decisions, or misinterpretation of events. Story shot number 5. The biases we create in our own minds. Kahneman introduces 8 common biases and heuristics that can lead to poor decision-making. 1. The law of small numbers. This law shows our strongly biased belief of smaller numbers or samples resembling the population from which they come. People underestimate the variability in small samples. To put it another way, people overestimate what a small study can achieve. Let's say a drug is successful in 80% of patients. How many patients will respond if 5 are treated? In reality, out of a sample of 5, there's only a 41% chance that exactly 4 people will respond. 2. Anchoring. When people make choices, they tend to depend more heavily on pre-existing information or the first information they come across. This is known as anchoring bias. If you first see a t-shirt that costs $1,200 and then see a second one that costs $100, you're more likely to dismiss the second shirt. If you just saw the second shirt, which costs $100, you wouldn't consider it cheap. The anchor, the first price you saw, had an undue impact on your decision. 3. Priming. Our minds work by making associations between words and items. Therefore, we are susceptible to priming. A common association can be invoked by anything and lead us in a particular direction with our decisions. Kahneman explains that priming is the basis for nudges and advertising using positive imagery. For example, Nike primes for feelings of exercise and achievement. When starting a new sport or wanting to maintain their fitness, consumers are likely to think of Nike products. Nike supports pro athletes and uses slogans like "Just do it" to demonstrate the athlete's success and perseverance. Here's another example. A restaurant owner that has too much Italian wine in stock can prime their customers to buy this sort of wine by playing Italian music in the background. 4. Cognitive ease. Whatever is easier for System 2 is more likely to be believed. Ease arises from idea repetition, clear display, a primed idea, and even one's own good mood. It turns out that even the repetition of a falsehood can lead people to accept it, despite knowing it's untrue, since the concept becomes familiar and is cognitively easy to process. An example of this would be an individual who is surrounded by people who believe and talk about a piece of fake news. Although evidence suggests this idea is false, the ease of processing this idea now makes believing it far easier. 5. Jumping to conclusions. Kahneman suggests that our System 1 is a machine that works by jumping to conclusions. These conclusions are based on what you see is all there is. In effect, System 1 draws conclusions based on readily available and sometimes misleading information. Once these conclusions are made, we believe in them to the very end. The measured impact of halo effects, confirmation bias, framing effects, and base rate neglect are aspects of jumping to conclusions in practice. The halo effect is when you attribute more positive features to a person or thing based on one positive impression. For example, believing a person is more intelligent than they actually are because they are beautiful. Confirmation bias occurs when you have a certain belief and seek out information that supports this belief. You also ignore information that challenges this belief. For example, a detective may identify a suspect early in the case, but may only seek confirming instead of disproving evidence. Filter bubbles or algorithmic editing amplify confirmation bias in social media. The algorithms accomplish this by showing the user only information and posts they will likely agree with rather than exposing them to opposing perspectives. Framing effects relate to how the context of a dilemma can influence people's behavior. For example, people tend to avoid risk when a positive frame is presented and seek risk when a negative frame is presented. In one study, when a late registration penalty was introduced, 93% of PhD students registered early. But the percentage declined to 67% when it was presented as a discount for early registration.
This is the end of part 1 and the free shot of this book. Get the full text and audiobook version on the StoryShots app. Which one of these key insights would you put into practice? Let us know by sending us a tweet to StoryShots. To dive into the details, order the full audiobook for free using the link in the description or the app. Did you like the lessons you learned here? Share to show you care or let us know by contacting our support at support@getstoryshots.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Did you like this audiobook summary? Click the like button now to support our channel. If you don't want to miss out on new free audiobook summaries, subscribe and click the bell button. You can also download our free app and enjoy thousands of other summaries of best-selling nonfiction books that are available in text, audio, and animated formats. StoryShots has been featured by Apple, Google, and The Guardian as one of the world's best reading and learning apps. Go to getstoryshots.com and download the app today.